Welcome, everyone. This is Advanced Zoning for ANCs, and it is being presented by the DC Office of Zoning. Our two presenters tonight, the first one is Sharon Schellen, who has worked at the Office of Zoning since November of 2001. Prior to that, she worked as a paralegal in DC and Virginia law firms. She has a bachelor's in business administration from Averett University. Sharon's married with two grown daughters and four grandchildren. She enjoys spending time with her family and raising money for charities such as the Fraternal Order of Eagles, where she holds an officer seat at both the local and the state levels. And joining her tonight is Kira Melhart. Kira has been a part of the BZA team at the Office of Zoning since 2019. Prior to OZ, she worked with Arlington County's Transportation Department on implementing transportation demand management initiatives. Kira has a master's degree in city and regional planning from Rutgers University and is certified by the American Institute of Certified Planners. So at this point, I'm going to turn everything over to them. I will go off screen so that I'm not interfering, and I will watch for the chat and for questions as they're coming in to make sure that our panelists have an opportunity to see that. So with that, Kira, you should be able to go.
Great. Thank you so much, Gail. And thanks to all of the commissioners here tonight. We appreciate you joining us. Tonight's session is advanced zoning for ANCs. If you were able to attend the zoning basics training last week, I hope that was a helpful introduction and overview on the structure of DC's zoning regulations, information about different zones throughout the city, development standards, who the participants are. And today's training will go more in depth on the procedures and best practices for how ANCs can participate in the zoning process. So here's some of what we'll go over today. So general case types, again, this was, we went over this in the zoning basics, but just a quick refresher. So in rulemaking cases, ANCs provide input for the zoning commission. This includes text amendments to the zoning regulations as well as some map amendments. For the BZA, chancery applications are considered rulemaking cases, so projects involving embassies and chanceries under the Foreign Missions Act. A contested case, affected ANCs are automatic parties in the case, and as a reminder, ANCs can submit an official report, file motions, and fully participate in the public hearing. Types of contested cases include requests for zoning relief, PUDs, so special exceptions, variances, and then campus plans, design review, and some amendments to the zoning map. And these deal with a specific project and have parties. We call them applications. So notice of it. Sorry, did I hear it?
Oh my gosh, that was me.
Oh no, that's okay. So notice of a case. This is when ANCs are notified about a new zoning application and the public hearing. The BZA and Zoning Commission must meet the notice requirements of the ANC Act, as well as the zoning regulations, and this includes things such as the timing, the type of notice that is sent, etc. Notice sent by the Office of Zoning, our agency, will come to your official ANC email account, both the general ANC account, so 6b@anc.dc.gov, as well as the individual SMD email address where the project is located. You may receive several forms of notice at different stages of the application. This mostly applies to Zoning Commission, and I'll talk about that on the next slide. So notice of intent. So in Zoning Commission cases, applicants mail a notice of intent to the affected ANC and to all owners within 200 feet of the property at least 45 days prior to actually filing the application. Applicants are encouraged to make good faith efforts to meet with ANCs during that time period. Then notice of the application for both Zoning Commission and BZA cases, applicants must serve a copy of their application and all the required documents on the affected ANC at the time of filing with the Office of Zoning. And then the notice of public hearing. So DCOZ provides notice of public hearings on contested cases to the affected ANC and property owners within 200 feet of the subject property. Again, the regulations specify when notice of a hearing must be sent out. For most contested cases for both BZA and Zoning Commission, public notice must be given at least 40 days in advance of the hearing. ANCs will receive this notice via email. However, property owners within 200 feet will receive a hard copy letter sent via the postal service, just in case that comes up with your constituents. OZ also publishes a notice of public hearings in the DC Register, as well as on our calendar, which is on our website. And then notice is also posted on the property before a public hearing, the orange and green signs, and typically this isn't until you get closer to the hearing date that these signs are required to be posted on the hearing or on the property, sorry. And then one thing to note, about notice in cases that have a postponed hearing date, those are not typically re-noticed to nearby property owners unless there's significant changes to the project or additional relief being added. However, ANCs and parties will receive correspondence from the Office of Zoning regarding the rescheduled date and will be updated in the case record. And I don't know if Sharon has anything else to add about notice and timelines, but some of this will be changing in an upcoming text amendment that hasn't been published yet, but some of the timelines and for notice and submission deadlines will have some slight changes coming up, and we'll be sure to obviously make the ANCs aware. You'll all get notice about when this is published in the register, but just an FYI on that element. So researching a case, this is really simple, just case search tool. You can look up any case using the search function on our website. You can also search by your ANC to look up all the cases within your ANC. We're recently in the process of sort of improving this tool so that the search function and filters and all that will work a lot better.
Okay, I'm going to start with drafting of an ANC report. I'm sure this is really just old news for you, but there might be some new people who don't know this or don't know it with regard to the zoning regulations. So pursuant to Subtitle Y 406.2 and Subtitle Z Section 406.2, the BZA and Zoning Commission shall give great weight to the written report of the affected ANC. And it's actually the written issues and concerns, and that comes from case law from the DC Court of Appeals. It's the written issues and concerns that the ANC submits, not just a report that says the ANC supports this project or the ANC opposes this project. You need to tell us what your issues and concerns are with the project. So the requirements for great weight, we do have an ANC form number 129 that has all of the criteria listed there that you need to fill in order to get your great weight. You need to list the case name and number, the date that your ANC met, and was proper notice of your public meeting given by the ANC, the number of members of your ANC that constitutes a quorum, and how many of those commissioners were present. And then, as I stated, the issues and concerns about the application against the standards that the application is going to be judged. Is this a PUD case? Is it not inconsistent with the comp plan is what we look at. And with the BZA, their variance and special exception rules that they have. I know with variance, there's the 3-prong test. How did they meet that? Let them know your issues and concerns about whether they meet that 3-prong test with the variance. And your recommendation of the ANC. Do you support it? Should the commission, do you recommend the commission just approve it or deny the application? And what was the vote, the outcome for the ANC? List your vote that adopted your report. And then we need the signature of the chairperson or the vice chairperson. And from the DC Court of Appeals, that again, talking about the issues and concerns, and I stated earlier that it came from case law. And this is the case that it actually came out of, the Metropole Condominium Association versus the Board of Zoning Adjustment from 2016 is when the case was reported. But I'm sorry, when the actual order came out of the DCCA. And it said, as for the recommendation of the ANC supporting the application, we note that case law does not require the BZA to give great weight to the ANC's recommendation, but it does require the BZA to give great weight to any issues and concerns raised by the ANC in reaching its decision. And so in reaching the decision to either support or oppose the project, the BZA and or zoning commission must give great weight to the ANC's issues and concerns. Doesn't mean that they will necessarily agree with the ANC, but in the order, if the ANC provided any issues and concerns in their report, they need to address that in the final order. So the great weight requirement extends only as, we keep hitting on this, the issues and concerns, but it's so important because I hate to see an ANC just provide a report that says we oppose it. And then they don't say why. What concerns do you have that would have the ANC come out with opposition to the project? Obviously, there was something that concerned the ANC enough to vote to oppose it, and that the majority of your commissioners voted to oppose it. So list what those are so that you can be given great weight. And that's why we're really hitting on this, to make sure that's included in your report. And it may sound crazy because maybe your ANC always does that, but we do get reports that only say we support or we oppose, and that's it. It's basically 2 lines. And we want the ANC to get what they're entitled to, and that is great weight. And so just ask yourself, what is the issue or concern? Is it within the zoning commission or the BZA's jurisdiction? Is it related to the zoning relief that is requested? If so, make sure you include it. If it's not within their purview, then there's nothing they can do about it. And it isn't something that you really want to include in your report because there's nothing they can do about it. Weighing in at set down, the set down process is the time that the zoning commission determines whether a case is ready to move forward with a public hearing or not. And prior to ZR 16, the zoning regulations of 2016, the Office of Planning was the only one who weighed in on this determination. And then when we were preparing for the zoning regs of 2016, we talked about it and we thought that it would be good to have the ANCs weigh in, but we knew that this was not the proper time for them to be given great weight. So what could we do? So we came up with the ANC set down form, Form 130. When we refer these cases out to you, I usually include a copy of the Form 130 along with the ANC report form for those who want to use it to provide the input on that form. You can't submit a letter on your letterhead or whatever. The only thing that can be submitted at the time of set down to be considered is the ANC set down form 130. Now, if the ANC decides to weigh in, this form must be filed in the record no later than 30 days after the date that we refer the application to you. Now, that is going to change, as Kira alluded to, case number, see if I can remember this, I want to say 2225. It's had final action on it, but we've not put the order out yet because it does make a lot of changes, and that means we've got to change some forms and stuff like that. But I believe, don't hold me to it or shoot me later, but I believe this is going to change to 40 days. We heard from some of the ANCs that by the time they got our referral letter and then it was time for their next meeting, they didn't have time. But I'll tell you, probably 99% of the ANCs never submit a set down form. And so I just want to put that out there. But I also want to say, and maybe they do it because it's not given great weight, but if you have a project in your area or coming in your area and you think it is inconsistent with the comp plan, maybe it's a map amendment case, and they are wanting to change the zoning to something that you think is totally inconsistent with the comp plan, that is what that form is for. You don't, so the ANC set down form, the purpose is, we don't think this project is, we think this project is inconsistent with the comp plan and it should not be set down. And, you know, this is why. Like I said, it's not given great weight, but it at least lets the commission know that the ANC thinks that it's not, that it is inconsistent with the comp plan and it should not move forward with a hearing. So it at least puts that in front of the commission. The commission can question that and question OP about it and ask them about it and bring that up. And if they decide to go ahead and set it down, it is something that they can ask OP and the applicant to address prior to the hearing. So please remember that. If you don't want to weigh in at set down, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to. But if you have something coming up in your neighborhood that you feel, and it doesn't have to be a map amendment, it could be a PUD with a related map amendment, and you think that it's not consistent with the comp plan, weigh in at that time, and you could, it could make a difference at that time. The commission may defer set down because they want something addressed based on what you put in that set down form. Okay. Sorry to go on about that, but I just want to make sure the ANC is, you know, understanding what they can do. So again, at this stage, this is not the time for the commission or for the ANC commission to discuss merits of the case. It's only to determine whether the case is generally ready. The zoning commission is just determining whether it's generally ready for a public hearing to be scheduled. You know, in the case of a map amendment, again, weigh in if someone has come forward with, say, a rulemaking, they think that this should be a rulemaking map amendment, and you think it should be a contested case map amendment, that is something you could put on your ANC set down form. Or if they think, say it's a contested map amendment, you think it should be a rulemaking map amendment, again, that's something you would put on your set down form. The petition is ready for hearing, but these are the kinds of things that you could put in on your set down form. The petition is ready for hearing, but should be set down as a contested case because, and you would fill that in. What you wouldn't put on there is the benefits and amenities proposed by the applicant in this PUD are insufficient for the following reasons. That's something you would put in your ANC report at the appropriate time. That's not for the set down form. Something that would be appropriate would be a statement such as the plans included in the application are unclear and additional information is needed. That's something you could put in there.
So talking about proposing conditions, in BZA applications, the ANC may propose conditions for the board to adopt as part of its order. And these are conditions that would be part of the board's approval and would be enforceable by the zoning administrator with DOB. As a reminder, DOB and the zoning administrator's office are the ones who interpret and enforce the zoning regulations, not the Office of Zoning or the BZA or Zoning Commission. So enforcement is under the zoning administrator. And one thing to note in terms of conditions, if the ANC report makes it clear that its support is contingent upon the adoption of certain conditions and the board does not adopt those conditions, the ANC will be considered opposed to the application. So some important things to note to keep in mind when proposing conditions. They should be related to the zoning issues. A common condition that ANCs propose is mitigating construction impacts, and construction is not an issue outlined in the zoning regulations. So therefore, it's not within the board's purview, and conditions relating to construction typically cannot be adopted. The condition should be related to the zoning relief requested. So the intent of any proposed condition should be to mitigate any potential impacts that may arise from the project being granted that specific relief. For example, if an applicant wants to operate a restaurant use in a penthouse, proposing a condition that deals with, say, landscaping on the ground floor would not be related to the relief requested, but proposing a condition stating, no amplified music on the roof after 10 p.m. could be considered by the board. And they should be clear, conditions should be clear and specific enough to be enforceable by the zoning administrator. So in terms of having, a really general example, proposing a condition that states the applicant shall work with the community on any issues that arise. That's really too broad of a condition for the zoning administrator to enforce. For this example, it should be specific about who should the applicant meet with, how often, and what specific issues. So some more specific examples regarding conditions that may or may not be adopted. So in this sample application, the applicant is requesting special exception relief from the parking and loading requirements to construct a new 8-unit apartment building in the RA2 zone. Which conditions are most likely to be adopted? So first one here, the applicant shall not apply for an after hours construction permit. This is not likely to be adopted since, again, construction is not within the board's purview. Next one is the applicant shall provide a SmartChip card and Capital Bike Share coupon to each new resident. This would likely to be adopted since it's specific and is intended to mitigate any impacts from the parking relief that's being requested. Next one is the applicant shall work with the ANC to resolve any issues with on-street truck parking. This would probably not be adopted since it's really, again, too general of a condition to be enforced, similar to what I mentioned on the previous slide. And then the last one, the applicant shall designate a loading coordinator for the building who shall be responsible for scheduling all resident move-ins and move-outs. This one would likely be adopted since, similar to the second condition, it's clear and specific and directly related to the relief being requested. And just as a note, applicants and ANCs, of course, can agree to conditions. They just would be separate from the BZA process and not necessarily in the order. But we see it all the time that ANCs and applicants come to agreements, construction management agreements, other agreements in terms of requests that they have, and that's totally fine. It's just as a separate process.
So with the zoning commission plan unit developments, as far as benefits and amenities, you look at affordable housing, employment and training opportunities, mass transit improvements, superior urban design and architecture, environmental and sustainable benefits. Those are the kinds of things that, are good benefits and amenities. And, so conditions in the PUD order are not just limited to mitigation. The conditions, the PUDs can include conditions that finalize negotiations between the applicant and the ANCs as far as public benefits and amenities that the applicant has proffered. And most of I believe all of the public benefit categories can be found in Subtitle X, Section 305. And the categories I just read are some of the categories that are included there. So Subtitle X, Section 305.3 says that all public benefits shall meet the following criteria: It needs to be tangible and quantifiable items, able to be completed or arranged prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy. The commission didn't want things hanging out there for years after the project was built. It may primarily benefit a particular neighborhood or area of the city, and monetary contributions are only permitted if made to the District of Columbia government program, or no certificate of occupancy may be issued unless the applicant provides proof to the ZA that the items or services funded have been or are being provided. And then you have section 305.4 that says a majority of the public benefits or of the proposed PUD should relate to that geographic area of the advisory neighborhood commission that the PUD is in. So these are the criteria that the amenities and benefits need to follow.
So just some details on the technical aspects of actually filing and submitting an ANC report. Creating an account in ISIS to upload PDFs is the fastest way to file submissions to the record. So if you or your ANC administrator or whoever is responsible for doing that hasn't created an account or need technical assistance with setting one up, you can always call our office and we will help you out. If you have technical issues with ISIS for whatever reason, you can also email ANC reports to be uploaded into the record by staff, and we've included the specific email addresses below. And you want to make sure you're sending it to the right email account so that we know if a submission is for a BZA case or a zoning commission case. So that's BZA submissions at dc.gov for BZA cases, and ZC submissions at dc.gov for zoning commission cases. And one important thing to note is that to ensure documents are entered into the record in a timely manner, electronic submissions must be filed via ISIS or by the backup email accounts listed above. Emailing them to staff doesn't always guarantee they're going to be entered into the record in a timely manner. We know that there are a lot of submission deadlines, and so we want to make sure your documents are getting into the record when they are supposed to be. A few other details. So ANC reports should be filed before the case is decided. This might be obvious, but we do receive ANC reports after a case has been decided and the record is closed. So in order for the ANC to get great weight in the board's decision, as Sharon mentioned earlier, it's really best to submit the report as soon as possible for the hearing. And if the ANC wishes to participate and give testimony at the hearing, ANC reports are due at least 7 days before the hearing. And this deadline can be waived, but we really, if the ANC does plan on giving testimony at the hearing, we really encourage ANCs not to wait until the day before to submit their report if possible. And just to note, I know coming from the BZA side, this is also a good reminder that if actually another note. So this is a good reminder if the ANC does wish to participate in the hearing, the ANC must designate a representative in the report who is authorized to testify on behalf of the ANC. And this can be the individual SMB commissioner or the chair, but that person just needs to be specified in the report. And then what I was going to say with this last point is, aside from giving great weight per the regulations, the BZA and zoning commission really want to know that the ANC was at least aware of the project or has it on their radar, or if there's no ANC report in the record yet. So this isn't necessarily in the regulations or not required, but we do encourage ANCs to let the board or zoning commission know if the ANC is not submitting a report prior to the public hearing. And this could just be a quick email from the chair saying the ANC had no issues and decided not to put the application on their meeting agenda, or that the ANC is aware of the project and has heard feedback but has not voted on it yet. And this communication is just helpful for the board and zoning commission. So they're not wondering, did the ANC know about this? Should we move forward? Should we wait for the ANC's input? It can kind of delay the process, and it provides more clarity regarding the outreach and community involvement during the application process. And as we've mentioned before, the board and zoning commission really do want to hear from ANCs with these projects.
So with filing petitions to the zoning commission, an ANC can file a petition for a text amendment or a map amendment through ISIS that Kira just spoke about. All of our cases are electronic now. And so you can go to Subtitle Z, Section 304 and 305 to find out the criteria for map and text amendments. Once it's submitted and accepted as complete, the zoning commission will consider the petition once OP files a set down report. So once the case is set down, if the commission gives it a favorable set down, the zoning commission can hold a public hearing. And if everything is favorable, then we will publish a notice of proposed rulemaking. And after that's put out for a 30-day public comment period, it's also referred to NCPC for their 30-day comment period to run at the same time. And after reviewing any comments, then the commission can have it on their next regular meeting agenda to take final action. And an order will then get issued and it becomes effective.
And in terms of filing appeals to the board, an appeal is another type of case that goes before the BZA, and like special exceptions and variances, it gets noticed and scheduled for a public hearing. And with an appeal, an ANC or any individual organization can challenge a decision made by an administrative officer or body in the administration or enforcement of the zoning regulations. And the key question that the board considers when deciding an appeal is did the zoning administrator or any other zoning official, administrative officer err in interpreting or applying the zoning regulations? And it's up to the appellant, whoever is filing the appeal, to prove that an error was made. So in terms of the filing requirements for an appeal to the BZA, and this is all in Subtitle Y, Section 302. So appeals look at, what decision is being appealed. For example, many appeals that we see often appeal the zoning administrator's decision to issue a building permit. The other element is the appeal timely? There's a 60-day deadline after the appellant should have known about the say building permit to file their appeal. And then what are the zoning issues on appeal? So similar to what was mentioned earlier, during conditions, an appeal needs to focus on the zoning issues and the error that was made in terms of applying the zoning regulations. So again, things like construction are not within the board's purview. And of course, must be filed through ISIS. It's all online like any other application. So going more into the timeliness element that mentioned briefly. So the appeal must be filed within 60 days from the date the person or ANC filing the appeal either had notice of the decision at issue or reasonably should have had notice or knowledge of the decision, whichever is earlier. So if you were made aware of a project, say 6 months ago when the building permit was posted on the property and you decide to file an appeal now, that would not be timely and the appeal could be dismissed by the board. However, the 60-day deadline can be waived if there are exceptional circumstances, and waiving the deadline would not prejudice the parties to the appeal. Okay, so moving on to filing motions, which an ANC can do as a party to a case. So a motion is a request by a party for the BZA or zoning commission to take an action. Some examples of motions include a motion to postpone the hearing, motion to waive a filing deadline, motion to reopen the record. And unless it's made verbally during a hearing, all motions should be in writing and signed by the ANC chair or vice chair. We encourage parties, including ANCs, to use the Form 150 for motions. This is on our website. It ensures all of the required elements of a motion are filled out and complete. At the time of filing any motion, a party must serve all the other parties, and this is really critical to ensuring the motion can be considered by the board or zoning commission, since the other parties in the case need to be made aware of the motion and have the opportunity to respond. And then if parties are opposed to the motion, they have 7 days to file and serve a response. So to go over some of the steps to filing a particular motion that is quite popular, especially with the BZA. So again, for a motion to postpone, make the motion in writing, include reasons for the motion, a signature by the ANC chair or vice chair, or if it's an email, it should come from one of those officers. A letter from an individual SMD commissioner will not suffice unless they've been previously authorized by the ANC to represent them in the hearing or in the application process. In regards to reasons for the postponement, it's helpful to be specific. Does the applicant still need to provide more information? Is there a scheduling conflict? Why isn't the ANC able to provide an official report prior to the public hearing? The motion should be submitted to the case record, similar to filing an ANC report. You can either upload it through ISIS or email to BZA submissions at dc.gov or ZC submissions at dc.gov. Send the motion to all the other parties, and then parties are allowed 7 days to respond unless the zoning commission or BZA chair decide otherwise. If the motion was filed more than 7 days before the hearing, the chair may decide the motion on its own or defer to the full board or commission at the hearing. And then requests for reconsideration and or rehearing, these may be filed after a final order in a case has been issued. And these procedures are outlined in Subtitle Y section 700 and Subtitle Z section 700. And a motion for reconsideration or hearing of a final order in a contested case may be filed by a party within 10 days of the order's issuance for BZA cases, or within 10 days of publication in the DC Register for zoning commission cases. And as with all other motions, the motion must be served on other parties. So some key things to think about in a motion for reconsideration: it should address, how is the final order erroneous? What errors were in the findings of fact or conclusions of law in the order? And for a motion for rehearing, it needs to include newly discovered evidence that was not available during the original hearing. And it must include the reason why that newly discovered evidence could not have been reasonably presented prior to the issuance of the final order.
So Kira, there was a question that did come in the Q&A, and I want to ask it now because I think it's timely for what you're talking about. The question was, does there need to be a vote of the ANC beforehand? And I'm assuming it's either for the filing of a reconsideration or a hearing, or what you just talked about before, which was the postponement.
For postponements, there doesn't need to be a vote. It should come from, either the chair or the vice chair in terms of the request. For reconsideration and rehearings, those have more substantial information in them. And it probably would benefit from the ANC having a vote. I would have to follow up specifically if that's required for those. I don't know if Sharon has more background on that. But for postponements, we don't require a vote from the ANC to submit that.
Okay, that's the BZA. I don't know, Sharon, if you want to weigh in, or we can, it looks like
What-
the answer that the individuals who remained anonymous did get their answer. But I didn't know if you wanted to just add or anything. If not, we can move on.
What was the exact question? Does the ANC need to vote for reconsideration?
Well,
that
does
what-
there need to be a vote of the ANC beforehand? And I think they were asking, they put the question in, I think you were talking about postponement, and now you moved for reconsideration or rehearing. So I think they just want to know if there needs to be a vote for those.
That's interesting. I don't know that that's ever come up, but I would think that the ANC would need to, I think the chairman could probably ask, but I would think that the ANC as a whole would have to be in agreement that they want it to be reconsidered. Yeah, because you need to figure out what are you asking the reconsideration for? Because, you can't bring in new evidence. So there has to be a reason for the reconsideration. Did they apply the regulation incorrectly? Did they apply the evidence incorrectly in the hearing? So there has to be a reason for the reconsideration or for a rehearing. So I would think that maybe the ANC would weigh in on that, why they want they're going to ask the commission well, it sounds like the board doesn't require it, but I don't think it requires a vote, but I would think it would be something the ANC would discuss though,
Okay.
Yeah.
If we get
But
any
I
other
don't think a vote's
questions,
necessary. I don't think a vote would be necessary.
okay. Well, we'll move on. If there's any other questions, we'll take them as they come. Thanks.
Okay.
And so the last two things here in terms of other types of applications and ANC's role. So modifications. So after a final order is issued, an applicant may request either a minor modification or modification of consequence, which would be held without a hearing. So in these situations, it wouldn't go through. It's more for, say, like a minor change in plans. They went to go submit their building permit and realized, some measurements were slightly off, and they're not adding relief. They're not substantially changing the project. So these are cases that would not have a hearing. And I think this is another element in the 2225 text amendment that's going to change a little bit in terms of what they're called. But so modifications without a hearing, again, minor changes in nature, and won't get noticed, like with the 40-day requirement, at least for BZA. They don't go through that process. It's on the applicant to serve the application to the parties in the ANC. And also just another no, when it's at a meeting, there's no testimony taken. It's just the board or zoning commission deliberating on the case and making a decision to either approve, deny, or if they feel it needs to be heard at a hearing, it is in their purview to pull it off the consent calendar and put it on a public hearing date so that they can hear testimony and ask questions. And so currently what's called a modification of significance, that is the modification that would have a hearing. And these are cases that, again, have a more substantial change to the original approval. And typically this involves adding new relief. So they have to make a pretty big change to the project. They have to add something, and now they realize they need special exception relief from something, and that was not part of the original approval. So that becomes a modification with a hearing, and it gets noticed and scheduled like any other case. And ANCs can participate in those hearings. They can also, I mean, ANCs can still submit reports for modifications without a hearing, that we very much encourage that. Just there's no testimony, but yeah, the modifications with the hearing, ANCs can actually participate in those hearings, and as a party. And then just to note, modifications don't allow the BZA or zoning commission to revisit the entire case, only considering what is being added or modified. And then the other type of cases are time extensions. So after a final order is issued, an applicant may request to extend the order's validity. So this is in subtitle Y, section 705, and subtitle Z, section 705. And this is when an applicant just needs simply more time, usually to finalize all the either the financing or, you know, kind of just get all their ducks in a row with filing a building permit or whatever reason, and they just need a little bit more time beyond what the final order allows. Time extension cases do not allow the BZA or zoning commission to revisit the decision in the case. It's only deciding on whether there is good cause to extend the validity of the order. And these cases are, again, consent agenda items, typically, at least for the BZA. So no testimony is taken, but ANCs are encouraged to submit a report if they feel like there is an issue with the time extension application. And then in terms of ANC responses, so affected ANCs, like I mentioned, will be served with any requests for modifications or time extensions. You can provide input on the ANC report form. Again, as Sharon mentioned, make sure the issues and concerns are relevant to the request. And then, like I said, for modifications that require a public hearing, the affected ANC may participate as a party in the hearing, as with any contested case.
So I just want to hit on some virtual hearing items. So you can watch our hearings live via WebEx or YouTube, or you can listen via phone. And so you can watch them, listen by all three, and you can watch by WebEx or YouTube. And so you can only testify via WebEx and phone. So YouTube is solely for watching. And I think there might be like a, I don't know, 2 to 4 second delay maybe with YouTube. But if you don't have it on in another room, then it doesn't matter. It's just that I only bring that up because sometimes when I'm watching in the office, somebody else might have it up on YouTube and I've got it up on WebEx, and I'm like, what? I just heard him say that. And it's like, well, somebody else has it. It's because there's a delay. So it is kind of funny. But the recording's always available the next day on our website and on YouTube. Sometimes it's even available later on that evening. So to sign up to participate, it's very easy. You go to our website and you'll see an option to sign up to testify. There's an option, I think it says, actually just says sign up to testify. The other option is for the zoning commission is to call the number with staff. That's actually my direct dial. That is not the one you want to call. You want to call Ella, my assistant. Her number is 727-0798. And the reason why you have to actually call is because we no longer have everyone stand up in the room and raise their right hand and take the oath. We give the oath either over the phone or when you sign up, you will take the oath that way. So that's how the oath is given now. And so that's why we need you to sign up or call us so that we can give you the oath. And then you have your BZA contact also. So the virtual hearing process, or procedures rather, are codified in subtitles Y and Z at the same section number 103.13. You have to sign up in advance to testify. We'd like for you to sign up at least 24 hours in advance so we can send you a link to the hearing. If not, it's always on our website. Again, you can just click on watch hearings live, and that will give you a list of the hearings for that week and the link. So you can go there. There's no live video, so you can't pick your laptop up and start showing around. I kind of shouldn't show my house. It probably is full of dust or whatever. But, you know, in the beginning, we had people that were doing that, showing us around their neighborhood, their backyard or whatever, what was going to be affected. You cannot show live video. You can request to reopen the record if you're having technical difficulties. We ask that all written submissions be submitted to the record at least 24 hours prior to the hearing. Now, if you are having technical difficulties, you can ask that the record be reopened when you testify. You can ask that you be able to submit your testimony either right after you testify, or, you know, by later that day, or if your computer has totally crashed, maybe you need till the next day to go to a friend's house or a library to submit it. You can ask the commission when you testify. So ANCs have until the commission takes final action, or the board, until they take final action on a case. However, as Kira said, if you're going to participate, if the ANC is going to participate in a hearing, the regulations say you need to submit your report at least 7 days prior to the hearing. And that
Sharon,
gives,
oops, go ahead, Sharon. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
sorry, and that gives the parties, the applicant, if there are other affected ANCs, or if someone has gotten advanced party status, they know where the ANC stands, and then they know the ANC plans on participating. But as Kira said, the commission and the board are very good about approving the waivers for submitting less than 7 days, because they know that you guys are volunteers, and volunteers don't get paid, and you work hard, and most of you probably have other jobs or other hobbies or whatever, families to take care of. And so it's difficult for us sometimes to get things in on time. And so they are very amenable to accepting the ANC report when it comes in and allow you to participate in the hearing. And the difference is that the ANC plans on being at the hearing. They plan on presenting, maybe they're just going to read the report, but they plan on cross-examining the witnesses. That's the difference in participating versus just providing your report.
Sorry I interrupted, but before we get too far into it, we did have a question in the Q&A about filing an appeal. So I don't know if we want to take that question now.
Sure.
Kira, it has to do with the BZA appeal, and I can read it. The question was about filing an appeal on a BZA final decision. When do the parties and the ANC receive a written final decision? The oral final decision was given at the determination hearing, but where is the written order? When does the 60-day deadline to file an appeal start ticking, from the oral decision or the official written decision that so far has not been received by the parties or the ANC? And I don't know if you can see the question in the Q&A, because it is pretty long.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, the ANC would like to appeal a BZA decision. It looks like that's, so you're appealing the decision the BZA made. So that, if that's the case, that is a different process. And so once the final order is issued, you can appeal that to the Court of Appeals. That's again a different
30-day. I think what's throwing us off, Gail, is that she's mentioning a 60-day deadline. There's a 30-day deadline.
So let's, yeah. So let me do
So-
this. Commissioner Patterson, this was a pretty long question. I'm going to allow you to actually ask the question if you could now before we move on. Is that okay? So I'm unmuting you. You should be unmuted.
Yes, hello?
Hi. So why
Hi,
don't you ask
thank-
your question now before we move on? Because I
Yeah.
think we're almost done
Okay.
with the presentation. So go
Okay.
ahead.
Thank you so much. So I was involved in a BZA case that was at a determination hearing, I'm going to say 12 days ago, and a decision was made and it was final. The parties want to appeal. I was told that there's 60 days to appeal from the issuance of the final order. So the final order was oral. Are we going to receive a written final order? And when does the 60-day window, if it's 60 or 30 days, I'm not sure, when does that start ticking? From the oral testimony and the oral hearing and the oral final decision? Or are we going to get a written statement? And is the written final order the date of that? Is that when the time period starts to tick?
So, so I think, so yeah, so you would like to appeal the board's decision in a BZA case, is what it sounds like, correct?
Correct.
So that, right, so that is a different process than, say, filing an appeal to the BZA. So if you would like to appeal the board's decision, that would be to the District Court of Appeals, which is a separate process. And I think, yeah, I'd have to confirm. I think it's 30 days from when the written order is issued to file that appeal with the DC Court of Appeals. But yeah, in regards to anything with either the BZA or zoning commission, nothing is final until that written order is issued regardless. So so when it is issued,
When will it be issued if the hearing took place 10 to 12 days ago?
so I think I know what case you're talking about. And so it probably will take some time, just because there was a lot of participation in that case, and the case record was pretty had a lot. There was a lot in the case record, and so in order for to fill out the conclusions of law and provide the legal analysis that goes into the board's decision, those orders take a little bit longer than just a summary decision. But the ANC is always served when the order is issued that day. The ANC's general email, as well as the SMD and any other parties that were in the case. So if you have questions about this specific order, you can always reach out directly to me, but it'll probably be some time before that one is issued.
Okay, so just for clarity for the rest of the ANCs on the call, the date, the 30-day time stamp is when the written order is received, not the oral. Is that correct?
Issued, not received. It's not when you receive it. It's when it becomes effective, right, Kira? Or is it when you guys serve it? I think, here's the thing, Ms. Patterson. You have to contact the DCCA or look on their website for their rules, because if we give you legal advice, that's what that is telling you a deadline to file an appeal with another court, and we tell you incorrectly, then we could get in trouble. Do you see where? So when we say we think it's 30 days, and I really do think it's 30 days, but I think it's 30 days from the date you are served. But I don't want to put it out there as gospel, because we are not attorneys, and we are not attorneys, and we do not work for the DC Court of Appeals to know what their process is. We can only say we think it's 30 days from the date you are served, the parties are served, not from the date our orders are published. Like for zoning commission, for example, our orders are effective upon publication. However, I know it's always important when someone wants to appeal our cases, they want to know what date the parties were served. So it's my belief that it's 30 days from the date of service. But again, I want to make the statement that Kira and I are not attorneys and we are not trying to give anybody legal advice. That's a process for the DC Court of Appeals that I would encourage you to check as far as timing. Although the order hasn't been issued yet, so it sounds like you've got time to go on their website and check that out. I believe it's dcca.dc.gov. I'm not positive though.
I think just dccourts.gov/Court
Is
of
it just
Appeals.
okay,
Yeah.
good.
I thank you so much for this, and I will respond
Sure.
after the call. But this just goes to what you said earlier. The ANCs are not paid. Most of us are not attorneys.
Exactly. Right.
And if you think this is confusing for you, think how we feel. So we're
Yeah.
getting all kinds of mixed information, and now I just got a lot more. So it's
Yeah.
very frustrating.
Yeah. It's just that we don't work for them. And, you know, we just as an office, that's our policy, is to not give information on another agency's procedures, because we don't work there. And, you know, they could have changed it just today or yesterday. And if we give you incorrect information, that doesn't help you.
I
And
appreciate
so,
that, and I
yeah.
understand.
So
I
we
do.
just
Yeah.
Thank you.
prefer to say that we believe it's 30 days, and that is truly what I believe, 30 days from service. But again, don't take my word for gospel. Please check their policies, their procedures.
I think
Thank you. I
it's
appreciate
confusing.
it.
Yeah,
Thank
you.
it's confusing because there are two different types of appeals we're talking about here. There's
Yes.
appeals to the Court of
Yeah.
Appeals of a board's decision, but as a case before the board, an appeal is also a type of application where, say, like you know, a house in your, or an individual in your SMD was building something that you thought should have needed to go before the BZA first before they got that building permit. That's an appeal of a decision that you can do to the board. That's a different type of appeal. But what you're talking about is definitely to the Court of Appeals, which is a totally separate outside process. So I'm sorry it's confusing, and we're happy to follow up with you separately. But just want to make sure that's at least somewhat clarified.
Thank
And
you. I
then-
do appreciate it.
Thanks, Commissioner. And then just before we move on to these links, and Akira, I believe you did mention it, but there is some questions. You know, why does it take so long from, you know, the time of the hearing before you get that written order? So I think you said that, but maybe you just want to reiterate it one more time, and then we can move on to your next slide, unless we get another question.
Yeah, the full orders again are what's issued when there is a party in opposition to a case, and this means it just requires a full legal analysis of the case record in order to explain the board's decision, essentially, and that takes time, and it's again added into a workload of dealing with the current caseload as well. We constantly have cases for hearings each week. And so it's just managing both the orders that are need to be issued and written, as well as providing legal briefs on the cases that are currently being heard. But we are working as fast as we can to get them out for sure.
Thanks so much. All right. I think those were the questions that we have in the Q&A for now. So I think it looks like we can move on.
Yeah. And just very, very briefly, Gail, just to add on to what Kira says, I know Kira's new in that position, but having gone before the council so many times, and so that maybe the ANCs who are waiting for those orders, when the Office of Zoning moved the legal attorneys to our office and we no longer use OAG attorneys, we inherited a backlog of about 60, I believe it was close to 60, not summary orders, full orders that had to be written. So in addition to the weekly load of cases, there was also this backlog of full orders that needed to be caught up. And so while Ms. Patterson understands what her case is like, if she could imagine 60 others that have not been written, plus all of these that have accumulated over the last 2 years, all of these other cases that require full orders, you can kind of understand where we are. We did hire a consultant last year to try to catch up some of the case appeals where they were denied, thinking, the denial orders, we can try to get those out. But while they were denied, they still require full orders. So they still require a tremendous amount of time. I just want to put that out there, not to be defending anyone, but just to try to put it out there so informationally, why it's taken a while.
Thanks so
Okay.
much, Sharon.
Yeah. So moving on to the important OZ links that may help you. If you haven't been to our website, we do get a lot of compliments on it with as far as it contains a lot of information. They learn a lot from it. This is what we hear back. And so if you haven't been to our website, dcoz.dc.gov, please go there and have a little tour around. If you go to the Interactive Zoning Information System, or you'll hear us say ISIS or refer to ISIS. And this is, if you click on that, once you go to DCOZ, click on ISIS, you'll get these two different icons. The first one being go to case records. This is going to be where you're going to go if you just want to review the case. You want to look at all the records, just go in there and see what's going on. This is where you go. You'll click on this and you'll go to a page where you'll be able to search. That's the same thing right here. That's what that is. And when you search for the case will come up, and it'll come up to a case page, case record. On the right-hand side, it'll have documents, and it'll list like, I don't know, 8-10 documents. But right below that, it says view full log. If you click on that, every exhibit in the record will be listed, and you can view the entire case log. But on that case record page, it also, if the case is over, it will have the order there. It'll have a link to the transcripts, a link to the hearings, the live hearings, or, the past hearings, the recordings. So it's just a real wealth of information on that case. This one, the second icon here, is where you would click on if you want to file your ANC report, or if you want to just submit as an individual some comments to the record, you can go here. And if you don't have an ISIS account, all it takes is just going in, putting in your name, I think address, that kind of stuff. It's an email. And the reason why we ask you to fill that in, you'll get an email back and you click on it to authenticate your account, is because we don't want fake accounts created. That's all it is. We're not trying to get your information and keep it and sell it to a bunch of spam promoters. Here. Our zoning map, I love our map because it has so much information. When you click on our map, again, if you haven't gone there, go in, put your own address. Even if you're a renter, put in your address for your house or your apartment building, your condo building. And if you have a square and lot, put that in. You can search by address, square and lot, PUD, all kinds of options. And if you just know an intersection, 3rd and E, Northwest, and it'll come up to that area because you don't know the exact address, and then you can kind of look on there until you find the property you want. But then on the left-hand side, it'll list the name and address of the owner as far as where the tax invoices go to. And then it'll have the address of the property, the square and lot, the ward it's in, the ANC, the SMD, the zoning, if it has a PUD on it, and it'll list any prior zoning relief cases with regard to the square and with regard to the lot. And it'll have both BZA and zoning commission. So it's a lot of information. You can actually, at the top of that on the left-hand side, you can run the report and it'll actually print it off for you. You can also, on the right-hand side, there's some tools to figure out area and distance. It may not be exact, but it gets pretty close. Next, our website, when I was talking about clicking on the ISIS, that's right here, the Interactive Zoning Information System. So when you click here, that's when you get the two icons that I was talking about. To watch live hearings, this is this right here is where you go for that. And that will bring you up to a page that will list the hearings for the week. Our calendar, there's just all kinds of links on here. If you want to sign up to testify, this is what I was talking about before. You just see the hand, that's where you need to go to sign up for, to testify. So all of that information here, there's different things you can look at. So I think if there are any other questions, these are just phone numbers for you to contact Kira, myself, or Zelalem Hill, who is our ANC liaison. And I think that's it.
So what we'll do, since we have a little bit of time, is it's just difficult for me to see the entire group. So if you want to, Kira, if you don't mind, stop sharing. And then if there are commissioners or anyone who's on the call that would like to ask a question that hasn't been answered, I know we did a few in the Q&A, but if anyone has any others for Sharon or Kira, we can take those now. I will unmute you. There's at the bottom of the screen, the little emoji there, you can raise your hand. So I believe we have, hold on. And this is Commissioner Muhammad. I'm going to give you, I'm going to unmute you. So give me a second. And
Yeah,
you
I saw she had a question about how long it takes, and we honestly can't answer that.
Okay, that's the question.
Yeah, it's up
That's
to the
already been-
attorneys. Yeah.
But my question is
go ahead.
the time that it's taking,
Mm-hmm.
what happens to the case? Does it just continue to move forward?
Well, the case has ended, the record is closed, and the only thing to be done is for the order to be issued. So the case, you know, the developer or the homeowner, maybe homeowner's trying to build a deck or whatever, they can't do anything until that order is issued.
Okay, so the case cannot move forward until the order is issued, correct?
Well, yeah,
And no one, okay, is that what you said? Did I miss that?
I'm saying, as far as you're saying, the case can't move forward. The case itself has moved through all of the steps. It is over, except for the final order to be issued. So I'm saying that the development can't move forward until the order is issued. The order is what they need to give to DOB for their building permit. Without
Okay,
that, they can't get their
but I-
permit.
That's what I was trying to understand. But
Yeah.
what I don't understand is why is there not some type of time limit in the regulations for the BZA to submit this final order? I mean, no one can give us it's going to be 30 days, it's going to be 60 days, it's going to be 6 months. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Well, as I said, Ms. Muhammad, and maybe Kira can add to it, I know that they're working on it. Like I said, we hired an attorney last year to get out, and I think he got out 15 orders, wasn't it, Kira? 15 of the denials. I think that, you know, you have to understand that OAG gave us a backlog. And so we inherited a lot. And if you just understood how long it takes to do just one full order, then, I mean, we've gotten through 30 of them, I understand. I think maybe more than 30 now. So they're getting through those, plus all the other stuff they have to do. There's a lot of BZA cases, and there's a lot of work. And I don't know what to tell you other than there's been a lot of appeals, and that's part of the problem. So that makes a lot more full orders. And when there are full orders, the more, my understanding from the BZA process, and I'm only speaking up on the BZA side just because Kira's fairly new from this perspective, but there's when there's parties in opposition, ANC's in opposition, you know, all of with the opposition, then you need a full order. Correct, Kira? When there's opposition, you guys go to full orders. And that's fair. You know, you don't want to do a summary order because then it's not fair to those in opposition. You've got to spell out all of the issues and concerns that there were, so that both sides are fairly represented in the order. Because let's face it, if there's opposition, one side is not going to be happy with whether the board opposes, denies it or approves it. The other party is probably going to appeal, whether it's the applicant who's going to appeal, the ANC, or not the ANC, but the community group or whatever. Somebody is going to appeal, either the applicant or the party in opposition. And so you want to make sure that that order is legally sufficient and it covers everybody's issues. And it takes a long time. Kira, you want to add anything? I know that you guys have talked about trying to get through the orders. I know that she's trying to come up with ideas to, she's got, and the other thing was they were all new attorneys that came on the BZA side. That was the other thing. There was this learning curve. It was like,
Yeah, no, we are very well aware of, the how long it takes. We are constantly having to, work through this issue, and so it's a process, and we're doing our best to kind of find some solutions. We're already implementing some new things and like in the past few months that to try and make this go faster and give the attorneys more time to write orders. So those are some things, some changes that we've implemented, and yeah, we are doing our best to get it out. There is just so much in terms of the workload with, again, current hearing cases. We have 6 to 10 cases a week, plus all these full orders that still need to get written, and we know people need these orders, and so we're just trying our best to get those out.
Okay.
That's all I had to say.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks,
Molly.
Appreciate that. Thanks so much. Are there any other questions? Sharon, Kira? No?
I just want to thank all of the ANC commissioners for their hard work. And I know that I talked to a lot of them, and I'll walk them through ICES or the map. And I'm sure Kira would do the same, if someone called her. So I'm always available if someone wants to be walked through the map or to file an ICES case. So please feel free to call anytime, because I believe in trying to put the resources out there for you. And once you become familiar with them, I think you'll be very pleased.
All right.
Just to reiterate,
Oh,
I
go
don't know
ahead.
if Commissioner Patterson, it looks like she's asked the question again about, just to answer it really quickly, can developers begin work on their developments during the time that ANCs are waiting for a final written order? And just to reiterate, they cannot. An applicant who gets approved by the board or zoning commission at a hearing cannot do anything until that order is issued, and that order is what they need to take to the Department of Buildings, and Department of Buildings will not issue a permit until that order is submitted with the rest of their permit filing. So again, nothing can be done on an unapproved project until the order is issued. There are situations, so we have seen this, where there are parts of a project that maybe didn't necessarily need relief. So sometimes internal work that can be done, or just parts of a project that was allowed by right. Those permits sometimes can still be issued. So if you see, a project being worked on that hasn't gotten the order yet, that may be the reason. You can always contact DOB to clarify and ask them what's going on. Again, they're the ones who enforce the orders and the issuance of building permits. So just want to make sure that's clarified.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I just want to thank both Sharon and Kira for our audience tonight, commissioners. If you missed zoning basics, you can go to anc.dc.gov, go to the About ANCs. In our training resources, the recording from one of the sessions, we didn't upload too. We just uploaded one of the sessions is there, and we will be receiving from Sharon and or Kira that slide deck. And so we'll have that slide deck as well. As I said, this session has also been recorded. We have one more session. If any of your colleagues have not had an opportunity to attend, it is Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. There is a link for it. If you don't have the link, you can email me at gail.fast@dc.gov and I'll make sure you get it. And once that is done, we will then put this session, this training as well up
Yes.
on our YouTube channel, but also as a link from our resource page. So with that, I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight, giving us your time in this evening, and have a wonderful night, wonderful weekend. Happy Mother's Day for all the moms
Yes.
out there. All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you
everyone.
all. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Gail.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Gail. Bye-bye.